Very warm welcome to Dr. Zia Ahmed YouTube channel. Today we are going to discuss chapter 8 of the novel Twilight in Delhi by Professor Ahmed Ali. This chapter is in part 2, and with this chapter the part 2 will definitely end. I should say that in the political terminology or in the political terms, this chapter is going to represent the Twilight in Delhi because it goes to talk about the arrival of the British, the conquest of the British, conquest by the British rather, of Delhi, and later on their establishment, and how the people of India were reacting to that. That is all going to be talked about here. The chapter starts with the two lines that indicate the date, so this is very important to remember. Delhi woke very early on the 7th of December 1911. So the date is December 7, 1911, and we know very well that on such a situation and such a weather, it's very cold condition, mostly foggy conditions can be there. So in the winter season, in the foggy condition, the coronation darbar is going to be held. That English king would arrive there and he would have a walk in state on certain roads and the gates of the city, and later on he will pose to the people, and all the retinue will follow him along with the people who have joined him in his making up the government in India. They will also be with him. So in this way, people are gathered from the very night time. They are gathered to stand on the by lanes and on the side of the roads, and they are within the perimeter so that they may not be interfering into the state drive of the king and the other people. So that is the date there, and it is the place that we shall be finding out in the next coming paragraphs. That is the Jama Masjid, around which the people are standing, this very big mosque at that time. And not only Mir Nihal, but also his family, including Ghafoor, is there. He's also come there. And as soon as we find in the last passage of the page that the sun was coming out because of the fog, it was not coming out, the brightness was not there. So the time is also going to be very early morning. On the second page, if you come, we can see that some of the description has been made about the situation which was there. For example, the writer says, as they sounded, a shout went up from the crowds as the king had come right in their midst. It was long time until the procession emerged out of the main gate of the fort through which once the Mughal kings used to come out. So although the English king is coming out of the fort of Delhi, but the memory and the tradition is going side by side. The writer is indicating that the English king is coming from the same gate from where the Mughal kings used to come. So one history is that of the Muslims, and the other history is that of the English king, and that Mughal history is being replaced by the English king. That is the point here, that the same place is there, same timing, same type of people, but only the person who's going to rule the roost or is going to become the owner or the master of the land, that was the English person, not the any other local person. But the local people, as we are told in the ending of this passage, behind were the carriages of native Rajas and Nawabs, as Mir Nihal thought of their slavishness and their treacherous acceptance of the foreign yoke. He was filled with shame and disgust. So this line goes to indicate that not only the British people were there, but also local Nawabs and Rajas were there. And Mir Nihal is going to point out, rather we can say that this is Ahmed Ali who is going to point out that these were the people who had accepted the rule in a slavish way, in a treacherous way, and they are now the part of the government, but they are not faithful, or they have not been faithful with the people of India. They had accepted the dominance of the king, and they are now the part of the government of that king. They're not independent, they are rather slaves according to him, and this is possibly one of the reasons because of which the English were able to capture this land. And same thing continues with the passage of time in the next paragraph, where we find that the green lines are there under the passage. It says, but the Frangis came from across seven seas and gradually established their rule by egging on Indian chiefs to fight each other, and by giving them secret and open aid, they would concession for themselves and establish their empire. So that first paragraph indicated about the slavish nature of these people who were the part of the English king now, English government now. They had actually, according to Mir Nihal, fought within themselves. They had actually provided secret information. They have won over the Ferengi king towards them, and so in that way, the political reasons, the kind of conspiracies or the problems which happened because of which the English were able to conquer the land. So the English were maybe powerful or maybe having superior authority and machinery, but it was the local people who had actually managed to help these people and defeated their own people. So that's the thing which is being pointed out here in this part of the chapter. The ending lines again on this page say, right on the road, lining it on either side and in the procession were English soldiers to show it seemed to Meerenhal that India had been conquered with the force of arms and at the point of guns will she be retained. So that is the Fanonian idea that Frantz Fanon, the Algiers critic theorist, says that the freedom from the British people cannot be won until unless they are fought back, they are put back and defeated instead of being bestowed with the freedom which the British people gave. So Mir Nihal also gives the same idea that the presence of soldiers in the army on the streets of Delhi shows that it has been conquered by the force, and a similar type of force, or rather heavier than that, is required in order to put these people out if the British people want to, and that is really difficult. On the one hand, it points out the reason. On the other hand, it also indicates that the people of India were not that equipped, were not technically advanced in order to throw the British people away because of the heavy power they command. And then comes the next page, and here is the history of the Mughal people talked about, the long paragraph. Like many of the things have been talked about, for example, Red Fort, one of the symbols built by Shah Jahan on symbol of beauty, symbol of power, that has been crushed by the British people. And then it's the Khuni Darwaza, the bloody gate. And after that, we have the old fort, which was built by Firoz Shah Tughlaq, and Qutb Minar, and then there is the Humayun's tomb also. The Hindus has also been built something before the arrival of the Muslims. They had Hastinapur, which was actually termed as Delhi later on, and then was the iron pillar, which used to indicate the government of Asoka, the traditional historical ruler, Hindu ruler of India. So these are some of the names and some of the spaces which are the symbols of history and culture of India. They are also present there. They are witnessing the arrival of the British people and how they have conquered all these things. So in this way, the things which represent which represent Indian people, they are also being talked about by the writer, that Indians were not without their memories, their culture, their tradition, their symbols. They had these things as well, but still they have been conquered by the Western race, and now they were under the yoke of these people. They were to live the slavish life. The ending part of the passage says that alongside the Jama Masjid, this was so big a mosque. Along with that, many people were coming, walking, procession was going on, and people were looking at that. So beauty, regalia, and the honor the British people claimed, that was all going on. But there was something else also which made Nihal in his mind, and because of that, he feels very sad. And at this moment, when he looks at the procession of the British people, he remembers the day which is underlined here in the start of the page. It's 14th day of September 1857, when the whole war, whole Delhi, whole Hindustan was won by the British people. And under the command of Sir Thomas Metcalfe, a lot of bloodshed had happened in India, especially in the mosque, because many people who were in the mosque, they didn't want to surrender to the British people. They had decided that they will be there in the mosque, and they will, and this thing was known to Metcalfe also, that there are Muslims inside the mosque and they can attack him. And the same thing was being planned by the Muslims inside. So in this way, a traditional history of 1857 is being referred to, which the British people call as mutiny, and the Muslim local Indian people call it as the war for freedom and independence. This thing is being repeated here, that is being told. And at one point, the Muslims present in mosque decided to attack the British people, and they did attack, but because of the guns, they could not succeed. The writer says that, but with a resolution to embrace death in cause of the motherland, the Muslims made a sudden rally, and before Metcalfe men could fire a second volley of shots, they were at their throats. They began to kill the soldiers, who turned their backs and ran for their lives. The Muslims chased them at their heels, killing many more people until the English had reached the hill. On the hill, there was more of English army, and battle ensued. The Muslims had no guns, and most of them lost their lives, and the rest came away. So in that way, he remembers one of the incidents where the Muslims were, attacking the British people once they were successful, but later on, because of the heavy machine guns, because of the guns, batteries, cannons, and other firearms, the British were able to win. Though Muslims did try to receive back and kill as many people as possible. So the bloodshed happened, but still it was possible for the general to attack and control Delhi. Mir Nihal was so sad and so upset on all that, and that's why he wept and cried as well. With heavy heart, he decided to go his home, and uh, he gives us one example on this page. For example, when he was going back, he saw over a dust up heap in front of a butcher's shop, two dogs were quarreling over a bone, but a kite swooped down and carried it away, and the dogs were left alone, growling and sniffing the spot. This part of the chapter is very important because here one example is being given that if the people would fight with each other, some third party would come and they will kill and get the thing over which is being fought. For example, the two dogs were fighting for a bone, and the third party kite came, and the dogs remained fighting, and the bone was picked up by the kite. So in this way, it's being indicated that the people of India were not united, and as a result, they received loss, and now all of them are the slaves of British people. They are being referred as the Farangi kings. And now, in the end of the chapter, the writer describes about one incident that a beggar was there, and that beggar was not actually a beggar. He was a prince, and he was reduced to poverty because of all that. His real name was Nasirul Mulk, Mirza Nasirul Mulk. Mir Nihal used to help such people because he knew that they were good people. They were the descendants of Chengiz, they were descendants of Timur Lenk, but because of the occupation of the British people, these people have been reduced to. So in that way, really the thing had happened that the king of yore were turning into beggars of Latin princes, and princes of that time they have also been converted into the beggars. And so it was the kind of problem which Mir Nihal has described in this chapter. And Ahmed Ali sums the chapter in these words by saying, "It was with a heavy heart that Mir Nihal went home, full of the sense of futility and transience of the world, but great are the ravages of time, and no one can anything against its indomitable might. Kings die and dynasties fall, centuries come and pass, but never a smile lights up the inscrutable face of time. Life goes on with the heartless continuity, trampling ideals and words under its ruthless feet, always in search of the new, destroying buildings and demolishing once again with the meaningless petulance of a child who builds a house of sand only to raise to the ground." Here it reminds me of Shelley's poem Ozymandias, because in that poem also Shelley tells us that time destroys everything. The greater kings, their structures, symbols were destroyed by time. Same was the case with Pope Alexander Pope, who in his poem Rape of the Lock tells that whatever is spared by steel, whatever is spared by human being is destroyed by time. So in this way, time has actually become the biggest possible ruthless kind of force, a pathetic force which kills everything. This is a way of putting the blame on time. Actually, it is the people, in fact, who are not ready to remain united, remain powerful, who are not ready to work on science and technology, who are simply living in past, and definitely the powerful nations come and trample them. So that is the kind of lesson Mir Nihal has tried to give in the end of this section. Section 2, 8 chapter ends here. Next time we shall be meeting in some next video of part 3. So far, thank you for watching. Hopefully you have liked this one, you have understood something out of that, and if so, do not fail to hit the subscribe button and the like button, and put your comments if also sometimes you wish to. Thank you for watching. Hope to see you once again.